And here's your host, Goody.
Welcome everybody to the Gabbin with Goody Podcast. I'm your host, Goody. Thanks for coming back for episode 2. We have my good friend, coworker, fellow firefighter, Matt, here. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for opening up your home to us.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thanks for not saying anything about the cobwebs that you got
well, the beautiful cobwebs. And with Halloween coming around the corner, it's perfect.
Decor. You have to. You got these nice cups here, courtesy of Halloween.
Halloween, baby. So anyways, Matt, thank you again for coming on to the podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Well, I like Adam Sandler once said, I'm a pretty good guy. Plays golf on occasion, basic stuff. That's pretty much it.
Perfect. Good talk. Well, Matt, like I said, works with me on the fire department. Myself and him have actually known each other long before that. We'll take it back to the old college days. Myself and Matt went to the same college, and I will say that he did leave a little bit of an impression on me. Me coming into college as a guy who was getting into fire science as a major with no firefighting background besides the fact that my grandfather was a firefighter. I kind of went in there and said just that. I said, I'm from Western Massachusetts and I'm a fire science major. And that was me. And then Matt gets to the mic and Matt goes, well, I'm from Western Massachusetts too. And I'm like, oh, nice. And I'm a firefighter. I did this. My dad does this. I do this. I do that. Just going down a laundry list of things. This guy was a call firefighter. He's a volunteer somewhere. He volunteers at some kitchens.
Yeah.
He's really
homeless shelters.
Really padding his stats, as I would say. But with that being said, we did go on a little bit of a different journey to get to the same place.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about that now. I did the 4 years at Anna Maria. Cat's out of the bag. I said the name now.
Canceled.
So I did the 4 years there. I got my bachelor's in fire science. I did enjoy the time that I had there. But while I was doing that, Matt, you were already getting yourself full into the... Were you already an EMT basic?
I was. I enrolled in EMT school when I was 17 and actually had to wait until I turned 18 to take the state test.
All right, so you did have.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. So you had your EMT basic, and while I was at school, you were able to get your paramedic. So you kind of jumped in front of me there, and and though we had a similar path, yours was a little bit more accelerated than mine. So during that time, why don't you talk a little bit about how that went for you?
So it was, so I, right after my sophomore year, made the decision to not return back to college. I kind of saw that I was spending a lot more time working on an ambulance outside of one of the cities than I was actually in school. And I didn't think that was really fair financially, I guess.
Gotcha.
Was almost using it more of like an apartment just to stash my stuff, and then I would leave out to go to work for a couple days straight. Yeah, so after my sophomore year left, went to paramedic school instead. Did that for about 2 years, and then took the test and just kept on trucking.
And then look at you now. Right?
Oh, yeah, look at me now.
So I will say, like I said, I did the 4 years there, and for lack of a better term, I might have been a little bit jealous of your path, being able to get there before me. Obviously, here I am talking about it like it was a given, but obviously there's other facets that go into this. But taking that 4 years to go to school, there are times where I'm just like, why didn't I just, go get my paramedic and just, who cares? Like, who cares about the bachelor's degree? You don't need it.
Right. Yeah. That was a tough choice to make.
It is, and that's kind of like where, when I was there, don't get me wrong, when I was there, I didn't think about leaving school. Like, I knew I wanted to complete it, but like it's afterwards now, right? Now that I'm drowning in student debt and, look at it and I'm like, oh, I could have got on a couple years earlier. Not that I didn't get on early, I got on the department when I was 25. I've already done 11 years now, so we're and you've been on longer, obviously, from this. But yeah, I enjoyed the experience living there, and I think that's really what drove me to stay.
Mm-hmm.
The people that I met there and the things that I was able to be a part of. I think that kind of made college worthwhile. Besides being an expensive private school, I got my degree. That's an achievement. It does get me a little bit of something on the department, as far as a little bit of a incentive to have a degree.
Yeah. The camaraderie, though.
Yeah.
The people that we've met there, I'm still great friends with even to this day.
Exactly,
Like,
and I think that, like I said, that is what made the time there good.
Yeah.
Because I could have just been like, yeah, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna go get my medic, and because I knew that's what I had to do.
Yep.
But I did get my EMT there, so I mean, there's that.
That's right. Yeah, because they started doing the
They
EMT
started doing the
school.
program,
Yeah, because I
and-
was doing a lot of the TAing in that class. I'm like, I've had my card for 6 minutes. I don't know if I should be instructing these people, but all right.
I'm not sure that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but here I am.
Yeah.
So-
17 freshly turned 18-year-old. Now I'm teaching everybody else. Okay, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, so I did take it there. It was a good program. It was new, so I mean, there were times where I was like, people are like, oh yeah, did you do ride time? And I'm like, no. Did I have to do that? And people are like, oh no, my program, we just were on the ambulance. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, I didn't have to do that for my program.
Yeah.
It was convenient that everything was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We even had our testing was there.
They do paramedic school up there now too?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It has been some time since I've actually looked at the school
Syllabus?
itself. Yeah. And the courses that they offer. So I would say, I think they did, because I know they were working on it when I was there, and it is a long process. They have to get accredited by the state.
Yeah.
Now nationally accredited.
Yeah.
And I know that they were able to get somewhere with it before I left. And I think, eventually, I think after I left, maybe a year or two after, they were like right on the cusp of having it. And I think they even made it a degree, if I'm not mistaken. I think you can get a paramedicine degree now.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, everybody. You can just go on the Anna Maria College website and look for yourself. But don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Great school.
It is a great school.'re going to pay a lot of money, but you'll have a good time. So we met in the college years. I'm trying to think if I had left school in 2010. I got on the ambulance in Springfield, worked for one of the many private ambulance services that were there. I don't think, when did you start at Ludlow?
2011.
2011. Okay, so right around then I was in Springfield working for the private ambulance. And did you work there too? The same one for a little bit?
I worked at the same one initially, and it was a very short-lived, because they had just opened.
Yeah.
And being young and the conspiracy theorist I am, I was just a little like, this place is brand new. I'm gonna go to the bigger place.
Yeah, I had that.
I'm gonna go to the bigger place, be busier, and make less money. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I had that opportunity. I remember getting out of school and being like, I need a job. I have an EMT basic. I'm just gonna go be an EMT. Somewhere. And I think I put in, at the time, I put in like 3 applications. There was like 3 big private EMS places in Springfield, and I applied to every single one of them. And the one I ended up with was the first one that called me back.
Do you remember what you were getting paid an hour?
When I started, for some reason, I want to say $8.75.
How insane is that?
Yeah, it's insane.
So I was $7.82, my very first couple paychecks.
What a random
and
number.
it was always a big joke, because my sister, who was a seasonal lifeguard at an amusement park nearby, was making $2 an hour more as a seasonal employee than I was as a full-time EMT in a mild, moderate city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
Third biggest city.
Yeah, third biggest city, yeah.
Just a medium city.
Yeah. I always think back to that. That's just insane.
It is insane. And I mean, I want to say I left there and I was only making or actually my last pay raise as a basic, I think I was making $10.25. And then when I got my medic, I want to say I was making around 18.
I think they do fairly well now.
Yeah,
I think like you got EMTs that are making 20-ish,
Yeah,
and I think their medics are probably making mid-20s.
Well, as
based on
you know,
experience,
as minimum wage goes up in the state, you know,
Yeah.
these companies have to kind of give somebody,
Yeah.
and they have to give these people an incentive. What's making this person not go
Yeah.
to, you know, Pride to make $20 an hour as a
Yeah.
cashier? You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Like you have to kind of give these people some incentive.
Although
Especially if you're not driving to be a firefighter,
Yeah.
or go beyond
You got to ask
private service.
You wonder if it's too much money now, because now fire departments are struggling to even get anybody. So
Well,
before you had a whole bunch of folks, right? They were just like, oh, the money is in the fire service. I'm going to be a firefighter, paramedic, and I hate the fire stuff. But at least I'll be making decent money.
Yeah.
Now fire service is having a tough time even getting anybody,
Well, I
and
mean,
a lot of
that's-
people are staying at these bigger private services.
Yeah.
And now you're having a tough time even recruiting them, because like, why am I gonna? I'm gonna make almost the same amount of money going there to do fire stuff that I don't want to do.
Yeah. That's a big thing too.
Yeah, huge.
You find I didn't know that, like when I was getting into it, that there were so many people that, because in my head I was like, I want to do the fire stuff.
Yeah.
Like I want fire. I'm not by any means a whacker or anything.
Yeah.
But I like to do, you know, I wanted to be a firefighter.
Wet stuff on the red stuff, baby.
You know, and I wanted to be a part of a fire department, and I just knew that EMS had to be something I needed to get in order to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But there was people out there when I was doing this that were like, I don't want to do any fire stuff. And I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? Like in my head, it was like private EMS is like not an option.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? You can't make a career out of this.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. You could apparently make a career out of it.
Like my son, I told you the other day, he's just like, oh yeah, I want to be a firefighter. Oh, you know, you might want to go to EMT school after it. I'm not gonna do any of that. I just want to do that.
Let me know when you find a fire department that doesn't do EMS.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a livable wage. Today's climate.
So, talking about the fire service, getting a little bit deeper, let's talk about the struggles, certain struggles that you can have on the fire department with different stresses, and how to deal with them, both wrong ways and right ways to deal with certain things.
Hmm.
So, I'll talk a little bit personally. When I think of a hard call these days, I do find myself struggling with calls, kid calls, or calls that I have a connection to. Being a firefighter in the town that I grew up in, there are times where I know the person that were on the call or family members on the call. So obviously, for obvious reasons, you could have yourself a struggle with that. But more so recently, when I first started off this career, kid calls are always tough, but I was able to kind of get myself through those calls. Nowadays, with having two small children of my own, I do find myself struggling a little bit with those calls. And we did a call recently. There was a young child, got bit, very bad injury to the child's face. And I did find myself kind of sitting back being like, this is kind of a rough spot. But you get through it, right? You got to do the calls, and then afterwards, that's just how it is.
Like, because you have no choice. Like, that's your job. I mean, if there's a point where I have to like step out, we work on a good crew, and I'm sure guys would step in for that. But you try to kind of get yourself through it, and then afterwards, on that ride home, you're just like, hey, that sucked.
Yeah.
And I find that helps, and that's where I'm going with this, is like talking to your partner after a call, because sometimes you're, for those of you who don't know, when you're on a call, your partner's with you, but at some point someone has to drive.
Yeah.
You could have a bad call and have your partner in the back with you, and then they can kind of see that, or you can have a call that's not necessarily a bad call. You don't need anybody back there with you, but maybe it still affected you in a way. And I feel like after that, you know, when the call's all said and done, and you're in the front with your partner, if you have that relationship with your partner, I mean, sometimes it's tough if you're not necessarily, like, if it's somebody you've just worked with once or twice.
Partner roulette kind of thing.
Yeah, if it's something like that, obviously it's tough. But if you have a partner that you're with all the time, or you spend a lot of time with, which is basically the fire department, because when you're at the fire department, you're going to work with the same guys on the same crew. You work with we're not in a big department, so we're going to work with a lot of guys that even are on our crew. But to be able to talk to that person is, I think, for me, is key.
Yeah.
Like, if I could turn around and be like, hey Matt, yeah, I just need a minute, and I just need to kind of be like, dude, I don't know what it was about the call, whether or not if it was I look at this kid and I see my kid, or if it's whatever, or hey, it was my family member. Obviously, people understand that if it's your family member.
Sure.
But like, yeah, kid calls are tough for me, and I try to get through them. But it has not gotten any easier, for sure.
Yeah. No.
And
right.
and talking, like I said, talking with your partner after the call can help if that's something that you want to do. And you should always, and I will stress this, always say something. Like, if you are like just not feeling it, right, or you're like, this call like really messed me up, like, you need to say something to somebody. So then you can either take the time to yourself, whether that means the guy that's on the third just steps up for the next call, or you take a call off, you take a little break, give yourself some time to recoup, because you don't want to go into the next one with that same, like, oh man, I just can't get over that call.
Yep.
And that's I mean, you shine a little bit more light on that. What do you think about that?
So now you're right. I mean, and I think everybody, especially when you have a good group, right? You want to work with everybody, because it's like, oh man, this guy's a good guy, this guy's a good guy, I want to work with this guy. But there is something to be said, like you were just saying, about working with somebody that's consistent, because you start to learn how they're working, how you're working, and you're that dynamic that you guys got, and it probably makes it a lot easier for at the end of the day, because I was actually on with you for that kid call.
You were,
and it just makes it a lot easier to be next to that person that you are going into a potentially bad situation with repetitively every single day. It makes it a lot easier to just look to that guy and be like, I'm with this guy 48 hours a week. Hey, I got to come clean about something's really bothering me. And it just makes it a lot more personable when you actually know that person, as to somebody that you just, like in a private service. How many times did you have a partner, or were you scheduled for a partner, but you got there and you're like, oh, that person banged out, it's this person that you never even heard of. So, but being with that same person all the time, which is why I like our group. I think we have a pretty decent group, because everybody is right pretty much on the same ballpark of, that sucked.
Yeah.
Everybody good? Yeah? You sure? All right, let's get a pizza.
Yeah.
Let's get some wings. But no, you're absolutely right. It's tough. It's one of the big differences between like the fire service and the police, right? So a couple years ago, during, just like EMTs and medics have to recertify, the cops have to go through this during every single year's in-service training, and there was one clip in service, I think it was 2022, that just burned in my mind, and I will always remember it. This guy was working whatever his shift was, like 4 p.m. to midnight, let's just say. Had a rough call a couple months prior to this. Had another rough call, 4 to midnight. His shift was done. He said he got into his truck, turned his truck on. The next thing that he remembers is hearing a knocking, coming to, looking around going, why is it bright outside? Another guy that's on his shift was knocking on his window going like, hey dude, you coming in for a roll call? He was so burnt out that he literally got in his truck, turned it on, and just sat there for 16 hours and just blacked out.
Jeez.
And then all of a sudden came to it was like, it's time to go to work already. Like, my truck has been running for 16 hours. I've been just sitting here. And I think that's one of the big differences. So you're as a cop, you're going to these calls, you're seeing it, and what happens? You're getting back in your cruiser, and you're going away. to deal with somebody else by yourself. At least in the fire service, you have these situations that come up, these events that come up. You got your partner to chat with on the way back from the hospital. You got a whole bunch of guys at the station that are just ready to hear whatever you got to say.
Just ready for it.
And then you get to download it. You get to digest it. So you don't always, you're always going to take some pieces of it at home, but at least you can leave off a lot of the stuff about venting it off to the other 8 guys who have probably seen similar, if not the same exact thing that you just went through.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's like, suicide rates are so much higher than police and then fire. And I think that's one of the reasons why. We see something that's messed up, we come back and be like, you guys are going to believe what I just saw. This is exactly what we did. The cops don't have that.
No.
Cops are like, oh man, that was terrible. Might as well get in my cruiser and be by myself for the next 8 to 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go home and they're not going to talk about that stuff with their families, their wife, their kids. So they just internalize it. And then I think that's one of the huge differences between the two of them. And it's unfortunate. It's too bad. You got that macho mentality of like, it's okay to just not be okay, man.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's okay to be not okay.
Hey,
right?
pull the
That's what they say.
chair. Pull the chair. What's going on?
Talk about it on the table. Come over here.
Throw
talk
it
to us.
down.
No, I don't want to talk about it. No, come over here anyways.
Yeah, you're going to talk about it.
Yeah, get the forceful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty much that in a nutshell. Like Matt said, it is not. Sometimes it's not easy. It's not easy to go through some of the things that we go through, and we are lucky that we have a good crew. We have a good department. I mean, I think I would be remiss to say that anybody on the department could go up to anybody and be like, hey, this call messed me up, and I need something. I need you to point me in the right direction, get something, get help, talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that's good on our, being a smaller department. I think the guys that we have surrounded ourselves with have that same mentality that they're already, this guy's my brother, I'm going to help him out however I can, whether that's, hey, I just can't go home for a night, all right, stay here.
Yeah.
Stay at the station, stay, come over to my house, we'll hang out and talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things like that. That's like a big positive. And like Matt said, on the other side of things with the cops, they don't have that opportunity sometimes, and they at least don't have it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen cops have, see things that we see, and then just kind of go, okay, I guess I'll like you said, I'll go back in my cruiser and go to the next call.
Yep.
And like nothing happens, and then they're, finally they're just like, I can't do this anymore, or I can't see these things anymore. It's too much. And then next thing you know, you're losing a good cop. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, just leaving for something else, or, whatever, or the worst. Obviously you don't want to say it, but some cop goes home and just decides that, hey, I can't see this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And it just ends it. And that's not something that, you want to see ever. But it, like Matt says, it happens. Mm-hmm. And, hopefully it won't get to those points, and people can take a little bit out of this and be like, all right, I could just talk to somebody, and we can talk to whatever to get back on the right track. And sometimes that takes a lot. That takes a lot.
Yeah.
Just to be the guy to go up to, a supervisor, captain, lieutenant, whatever, sergeant, and to be like, hey, I need a break or a retreat or something. I just need to talk to somebody about all this stuff. And as a analogy that's been put around the table a few times, sometimes you have to unload that backpack, right?
Yep, another rock in
Another
the old
rack
backpack.
in the backpack. You got to unload it, and that's what people need sometimes. And I think that people should understand the importance of this. In a couple of weeks, I have another good friend of mine, another coworker of ours. He's going to be coming on. He has a little bit more experience in the mental health aspect and the fire service and first responders. I'm going to have him on, like I said, in a couple of weeks, and we're going to talk more about it, and more specifically certain programs that are up and coming in the United States. A lot of services out there, and a lot of lots of help if you need it. So that's definitely an important thing to talk about. And we'll be talking about that specifically in a few weeks. So, anything else you want to add into that topic?
No, that was a great leeway.
That was a good little thing there. Okay.
Kind of went down the dark rabbit hole there for a minute.
So, but anywho, it's not always, sunshines and rainbows at the fire department. But we do have a lot of good times, and with all the bad calls, there's, plenty of good stuff that happens around the fire department. Just like Matt said, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the whatever you want to call it, the family. That's exactly what it is. We're just all over here. Chicago Fire and Rescue 911. That's exactly what happens at the station.
Yeah.
I mean, the good stuff.
I wish Backdraft happened more often.
But yeah, with that being said, so we'll talk a little bit more about some other stuff that happens on the fire department. Matt came to me a few days ago and said that he wanted to talk about certain things that can happen, like we'll just call it gifts. So sometimes the public gets the need to give a firefighter or the department a gift. It's a murky waters, right? We take an ethics thing at our department that we do it every year. Kind of reminds us that you can't take a gift that exceeds a certain monetary value per person, but people do sometimes feel the need to do it. So we do get a lot of, hey, we're buying lunch today because you guys helped out Grandma Ethel, stand up on her own.
Yeah.
And people do come to the station and give food, and obviously greatly appreciated, especially when you don't have lunch or dinner, so that's nice.
Yeah.
But more so, Matt was talking about how people feel when they accept those gifts. So, like, for example, for the longest time, I guess the biggest thing would be Cumberland Farms or like Chipotle or a place like a restaurant. You go in there, they see you either in uniform or out of uniform, which sometimes happens, and they go, all right, this one's on us.
Yeah.
And really, what do you say to that?
It's tough, man. It just makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like being put in that position. Like you're saying, like Cumberland Farms is pretty much like you walk in there and you're getting a coffee from Cumberland Farms, which is not bad coffee.
No,
by the way.
No, I'm not a coffee guy, but I heard it's good.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. You finally get up there to the counter, and there's some people that will abuse it, right? They know that they're going to get Cumberland Farms coffee for free, and that's why they're going there, and they walk right out to the door. And I know it's coming, but it still makes me uncomfortable, so I still go over to the register, I still put it down, grab the wallet out, and start looking for the money to spend. Oh, no, it's all set. Especially if there's people behind you that, like, everybody's going through like a tough time financially right now, and then they'll be like, oh, well, he's just getting free stuff. Like, I know, it's not my choice, I'm sorry, I hate this. So I always try to, like, buy something else too.
Yeah.
Like, I always try to, like, a Gatorade too, I guess. Just so at least there's, like, some obvious transaction happening. And I just don't like.
So do you? We'll put it plainly. Do you not like that at all? Do you rather it not happen?
I think it's great. I appreciate what they're trying to do. I appreciate the message they're trying to get out. But just do it on somebody else. I don't know. I'll pay full price.
I'll say this because I remember you telling me the story. I will say that personally, when I go in to, like, whatever, we'll just keep saying Cumbies because that just happens to be the first thing that comes to my mind. But you go into Cumberland Farms, and you grab your whatever coffee, fountain soda, you get to the thing, and they're like, hey, it's on us. If I'm in my uniform, like, I do the same thing. I'll be like, I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, that's usually my
You
next...
got a tip jar? I'll
like,
put a couple bucks in a tip jar.
is there something, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a big deal to me, because, like, I mean, really, what do you... A fountain soda is like 99 cents. Coffee, I think, is like the same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to them, it's probably the same. It's probably even less than that. They're probably like, whatever, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I will say that if I was in plain clothes and the person just recognized me and was like, oh, no, this is on the house, I probably would be a little bit more apt to be like, nah, man, dude, I'm not in my uniform.
Right.
I'm really not advertising.
Right.
Like, when I go out, I'm like, this is me right here.
Yep.
I'm wearing a Spider-Man shirt. There's no way.
It's a good-looking shirt.
There's no way that I'm a firefighter unless you know who I am.
Right.
And I'm not trying to use my, my career as a way to get free sodas and coffees.
Yeah.
So I think I'm with you on that. It is an uncomfortable situation. I'm gonna lead this into the next thing. I will say, the other day, and again, very grateful for these things to happen. When a person comes up to me, I was at Big Y. We went grocery store, for those of you who don't know that. Northeast thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was at the grocery store. I'm in my car. I just put my youngest son, in his car seat. I put the groceries away, and I see this lady kind of like coming towards me. She's putting her carriage away, and then she comes up to my window, and she's like, excuse me. And I'm like, hi, how can I help you? And she's like, are you a firefighter? And I said, yeah. I mean, I have stickers on my truck. I have, some firefighter stuff that
Nerd.
is recognized. I like the, I have the union stickers on the truck. That's like the bare minimum you can have on your truck. So I do have a couple stickers. Lady saw it, come up to my window, tells me a story about how her I think she said boyfriend. Her boyfriend was a police officer in a neighboring town, got killed in the line of duty. And she was like, I'm making it I made it my mission to every firefighter, first responder, police officer that I see. I thank them for their service, and then I give them this challenge coin. So she gave me this challenge coin, and usually I'm like, I kind of like when people come up to me and say thank you for your service, my usual response is, well, somebody's got to do it, and they're like, well, but still, thank you anyways. But I said you're welcome the other day, and I feel bad that I said that.
Oh God!
Like I said you. She's
probably
like,
the worst thing you could have said.
I know. Well, I mean, it just felt wrong. Like, it's what you're supposed to say, but like when somebody says thank you for your service, you're just kind of like,
okay,
like, okay. And but this time I'm like, you're welcome. And then I thought about it. I'm like, oh, why did I say that?
Yeah.
I much would have rather gone the usual route of, somebody's got to do it. Here I am.
Yeah.
But I think the story of the boyfriend being a line of duty death kind of like took the wind out of my sails, and I'm like, okay, lady, I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
And she's like, here's a coin. I'm like, thank you. And I think I meant to say thank you, and then I said you're welcome instead. And it was it was just a weird, and those are always like weird transactions right there, right?
Yep.
I'm interacting with the public, and the guy goes, thank you for your service, and I'm like, me?
Good, you?
I guess this guy here. I mean, whatever. So anyway, that's just another little tidbit there that I'll throw in at the end of that conversation.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Like I'm not going into a store being like, oh, I'm gonna get everything for free. Like I'm intentionally going to a store in preparation to buy something.
To buy things. Yeah.
So like it's a great respect thing. I really, really do appreciate. Deep down, I really do appreciate people the recognition of it. But I just don't like it. On the outside, I don't like it.
I get it. Like I said, sometimes it's not necessarily, oh, hey, I don't appreciate it. Like you said, it's you're making me a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. If there's nobody else in the store, be like, what else are you gonna throw in? Let's go.
But got some chips. Yeah.
The other folks behind, like, jeez, I don't like this at all. That's why I would be like, you got a tip jar, just okay. No, all right, let get a chocolate bar so that there's some sort of monetary value. That's
And there's people at the store. You know what's coming next. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you are all over again.
Yep.
Going, you're welcome, and then you're like, damn, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. Busy today?
Oh my God! Don't even get me started on that.
Thank you.
So we're not going to talk about that. That could be a whole other podcast. That's a whole other podcast. We won't talk about that. We'll like lighten this up. We'll lighten it up a little bit. Let's get away from the fire service,
please,
and let's talk a little bit about Disney.
Oh, baby.
So, personally, I haven't been to Disney since 2000.
Get out. Get out.
And I was a kid, obviously. And that's the last time I went to Disney. I haven't been there since. I've been to Florida, but we've never went to, and I've been outside. I told you I went to Disney Springs. I want to say that was 2009.
Oh, buddy, you're missing out.
But I haven't been to an amusement park in I don't know how long, and yeah. So we the other day we were talking about it, and we kind of got on the topic of the resorts and different things that happen there, and Matt is a frequent.
I dabble. I've been known to dabble.
He is maybe perhaps a Mickey Mouse Club member.
Oh God, I wish.
With a hat and all, and yeah, we talked a little bit about it, and Matt and I both being, I would say Matt's a little bit of a bigger Star Wars fan than I.
Yeah, maybe.
Perhaps, perchance, and but I do dabble in the Star Wars. So we talked about, is Disney doing Star Wars justice?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Personal opinion.
Personal opinions.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I think they were on the right track, and I think the last couple of years there's been a lot of changes in people's thoughts, and regardless of what you believe is true or not, and I think Disney tried to tailor to that. And it really left a lot of the other folks kind of scratching their heads as to why their childhood dreams essentially are being just drastically changed into something else. And I think that kind of threw a lot of people for a loop. And
so, and then I was saying earlier too, the Disney is now, like I said, I read an article a few days ago. Disney is now pivoting out of the streaming service series and back into movies.
Yeah.
With the Mandalorian movie coming out in 2025.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's the right move?
To go from there's something to be said, like, so like me and my son, for example, like whatever day the Mandalorian episodes came out on, Tuesdays or Wednesdays or whatever they were. So me and my son made a thing of it, like, so every Friday nights are like our big taco nights, right? So like everybody, we're having tacos, we're watching a movie, and it was always nice because there was always a new episode by the time Friday came that we could just enjoy while eating our tacos. Like, that was just like our Friday night routine. To go to movies now, like that's cool. But then it's like, okay, but next week we have to find something new to watch.
Yeah.
So like that series of like The Mandalorian was great because it would be however long they are, 30, 45 minutes maybe. You'd watch it, okay, great, oh man, can't wait for next week. Another round of tacos, another Mandalorian episode, and now it's just going to be one movie. Be like, well, that was cool. What's next this week? We could watch, I don't know, episode 1 again.
So did you watch personally I did not watch Acolyte, which is the newer one.
Never did.
Which got canceled. So it only did the one season, now it's canceled.
Yep.
And I would say that I was into The Mandalorian, and I watched all The Mandalorian. The Book of Boba Fett came out, I watched that.
Yep.
Was there another one after that? For some reason I want to feel like there was another one before.
There was Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan came out.
So I didn't watch that. That's what it was. Obi-Wan came out.
Ahsoka.
Oh, and Ahsoka.
Ahsoka
I didn't
came out,
watch
yeah.
that. I didn't even watch that either. So, not that I didn't want to watch it. I just don't have a ton of time to watch these things. And my wife is not a Star Wars fan, so I can't watch this with her. And yeah, so I just kind of like got lost in the shuffle of the new stuff. I will say personally, though, if you were going to take a franchise like Star Wars and not make it look like a money grab, right? Like Disney takes Star Wars and just saturates the market with it. You know, to an extent, kind of like what Marvel's doing, right?
Sure.
So you come in, you saturate the market. Now you're really like, okay, yeah, you know, Mandalorian's great. I like the Mandalorian. Book of Boba Fett, okay, it's kind of like the same thing. Ashoka, oh, I like that. And then they're like, Obi-Wan's good, but now it seems like we're doing a lot here. And then Acolyte comes in, and you're just like, okay, yeah, that was different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what the general consensus that I got from people who have seen it and reviews of the series is that it's almost like they put it out there trying to be something that Star Wars isn't. And again, I can't personally say because I didn't watch it, but from what I've seen and heard, it's been like that's what it feels like. It feels like they are just putting out whatever Star Wars thing they can just to make the money.
Yeah. No, that you pretty much nailed it because you look at these you know, you look at like Mandalorian, you look at the Obi-Wan Kenobi one, you look at all these different ones. They at least are going back to the original episodes that an entire multiple generations grew up on. Like generations grew up in the 70s and the 80s watching episodes. What is that? 4, 5, 6?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So like you have generations of growing up in that. That generation's really excited to show their kids that because they that's what they grew up on and all. So you have the Mandalorian come out. Mandalorian references some things. They have some characters that you've seen in episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3. So there's some similarities to it. I've never seen The Acolyte.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I even know anybody who actually was like, I sat down and watched the whole thing and it was okay. I don't even know anybody who actually personally, online, of course, everybody's an expert.
People say,
but from the little things that I've seen with The Acolyte that goes with it, it's just completely so different what they're trying to do now, referencing the old school stuff, and it doesn't even match. So I think a lot of people almost were like offended.
Yeah.
They're saying like, whoa, 2023, 2024, you're putting out this video that basically just destroys everything that I've known since 1970, whatever, when the first episode 4 came out.
New Hope came out.
Yeah, it was late 70s, 78, 70 something like that.
That's around.
So I think there that whole generation of, you know, my dad watching Star Wars growing up. Now all of a sudden, you know, I have a son now. He's going to watch Star Wars, and that was like episodes 1, 2, and 3, like the Phantom Menace and all that stuff. Still with that connection to the original 4, 5, 6. My son is, you know, now enter my son. Now he's going to grow up with episodes 7, 8, and 9, and where they were starting to be like, all right, this isn't really that Star Warsy, but it's on the same premise, so we're going to go with it. But now with this Acolyte thing, like you have just taken 3 generations of people who have really enjoyed Star Wars.
Yeah.
And now you're changing it, and now you're saying, oh no, that wasn't actually what your thought process was. It was something different. How did you think people were going to respond to that?
Yeah.
Like
you know, and I feel sometimes I feel the same way about Marvel stuff, but like Disney just hammers the multiverse, like that's their crutch that they stand on. They're like, oh, this is different. Well, you know, in this timeline in the multiverse, then.
But financially brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, because you can just tell the same story 100 different ways and make a movie on it every single time. What's that? Robert Downey Jr. is going to be somebody else now?
Yeah, he's going to be Dr. Doom.
So like you have another, again, an entire generation. Love Tony Stark, love the character. I think Robert Downey Jr. does an amazing job on it. And now all of a sudden you kill him off and now you're going to bring him back as a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly hope it works out for the guy, because I think he's a great actor. I really appreciate and respect his work. I hope it works out in the end.
I'm telling you, it's a timeline thing. They said there's a timeline, there's an alternate universe
Yeah.
where Tony Stark becomes Doctor Doom. And that's literally what they're going to do. They're going to be like, this is it. This is the universe. In Earth 470,
Yeah.
it's Tony Stark picks up the mask, becomes Doctor Doom instead of Iron Man.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Personally, I'm a DC guy. DC hasn't put out a good movie in God knows how long, and I'm waiting for a good one. The Batman movie that came out wasn't bad. It was better than the ones previous. When I say better than the ones previous, I'm talking Justice League Batman, not Christian Bale, because that's like the precedent. Christopher Nolan Batman stuff is like the precedent.
And they're not DC at all. They're not
They're not. Yeah,
associated
they
with
weren't
them.
really associated with the whole DC thing, and that's why they had Justice League came and Ben Affleck became Batman. That was kind of a, I don't know, bad casting. I'll just go out and say it.
His wife isn't too bad looking though.
Well, it is what it is. so I would say that I'm hoping that they do Secret Wars and all these new Marvel movies justice. Deadpool was, to me, it was great. I did thoroughly enjoy it, and they did a lot of timeline busting. Like, they took all these characters that were in all these different timelines or different franchises, and they basically they're like, okay, that's enough, and then they were gone. And that's how they cleaned up their timelines, we'll say.
So is Marvel taking over DC?
No.
No.
Not that I know of.
That,
That would be
because
news
I
to
don't
me.
know a lot about that, their backgrounds, like all the people that were in the Deadpool number 3.
Yeah.
I never really, I wasn't a big comic book guy. I didn't really know the whole DC universe thing growing up.
Yeah.
So like a lot of these players, like
No, well,
Wolverine.
Deadpool is Marvel.
Right. But are they going to try to incorporate? Are they trying to buy the rights for the X-Men and bring them in?
X-Men was Sony,
with Sony.
and I think they got the rights to that.
Okay.
I believe Sony. Just like Spider-Man, it's kind of like,
It's like a half-half.
yeah.
Like,
So like
Disney can use them when they
so
want to.
I
But
want to say X-Men was. Again, don't quote me on any of this, but I know that Disney now has the rights to X-Men,
okay.
which is why we got like X-Men '97. Like all that stuff is now flooded into Disney Plus and streaming. That would be, yeah. I mean, they had to do that. That's the only way they could have used it, besides doing like the Spider-Man thing, where it was only like cameo
Yeah.
appearances, right?
Yeah.
And I mean now, so they have, I think with Spider-Man, they have half the rights to Spider-Man, so they can do certain things with certain versions of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sony, I think, still gets a cut of whatever, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I'm not an expert in this field. This is just things, hearsay, we'll call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, now let's talk about the use of the brand at the resort. So we talked the other day about the Star Wars land. Is that what it's called? Star Wars land?
The failed Star Wars land.
No,
the hotel there?
The hotel. Okay, so we
Yeah.
talked about the hotel, and we talked about like the rides and stuff, and like their version of whatever.
Yeah.
The Star Wars area
Yeah.
at Disney.
Hollywood Studios.
So there you go. So how do you think they did, starting with not the resort? We'll start with the attraction.
The actual land
That's what we'll
part.
call it. Yes.
I thought they did fairly well. It's always a gamble, right, of taking something that works and then adding in something new to be like, well, I hope people like it or not. It's a small area. The rides that they're building now are so technologically advanced. Like it's a big space that these things are taking up. You need all the cars and moving and the technology and the power that goes with it and this, that, the other thing. So I mean the two big attractions, I guess we'll say, the two big rides that are in Star Wars World are, the Millennium Falcon ride, which is, Han Solo's big ship there, and then the what is it called? Rise of Resistance, and those two rides are outstanding and they're great. But when you're outside of those rides, like, yeah, they have some stormtroopers walking around, they can interact a little bit. They have some bad guys walking around you can interact with as like a character kind of guy, get your picture taken with them. But it's interesting to see just how, I don't even know the right term for it, just money grabbing or just money hungry Disney is. I mean, you if you've been there, you come off of a ride and you get dumped right into a gift shop. After you've done like a Winnie the Pooh ride, boom, you're in a Winnie the Pooh gift shop. And be like, whoa, well, what 4 or 5-year-old wouldn't want to get a $90 Winnie the Pooh? You just went on the ride. Of course, and then you're a bad parent because you didn't buy the whole thing, and now their kid's going to have a meltdown in 110 degrees, and all of a sudden it's a big, huge deal. The land itself, it is what it is, I guess. They were probably maybe time crunched with the area. Maybe they had some difficulty trying to figure out what they're actually going to make in there. Maybe leaving some space in there to add additions later on. And I don't know it itself, but the land itself, it's okay. I think it could be better.
Could be better. Okay.
Yeah.
Room for improvement. I said that's not a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And now the resort.
The Star Wars one?
The Star Wars resort. Okay, so not a fan.
Never been. Never been. But from what I see and heard and read, not great.
Not great.
Not great.
They fell short of that.
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense to me that you can take an entire family of whether it be 3, 4, 5, maybe it's either just like a father and son or just father or daughter, any of the combinations of parents and guardians or friends going to these things. It's insane to me that you can say, okay, for $8,000 you get 3 days. You're gonna come in, you're gonna come to this hotel, we're gonna do a song, we're gonna do a dance, you can go have dinner. Next day we're going to bring you to the back door of Star Wars World. Have some fun. You're coming back to the hotel that night. You're going to stay there. Day 3, you're going to stay at that hotel because they're going to do another song and dance and keep you there. And then you're done. There's no freedom to leave. You can't just be like, you know what? I'm thinking I'm going to go to Magic Kingdom today. Oh, no. You didn't pay for that. You paid to be here.
That baffles me.
It's insane.
It is insane.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
You're not on a cruise ship. If you're like, hey, for $5,000 for 3 days, we're gonna it's gonna be a day trip down to wherever island, and then we're gonna spend a day there, and then we're gonna come back. Well, you know what you're paying for. Okay, yeah, no, that'd be great. But if you're going to Disney, especially like if you're coming from a foreign country, or hey, I've been saving up all this money all my life to take my kids to Disney, and here we go. I'm parent of the year. And you just blow $12,000 for a 3-day trip that you can't even leave the hotel at, or you don't have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough.
I would say it is tough.
Yeah, I never looked at. I've looked at going, and then I saw the prices, and I was like, nope, all set. I think if they changed the prices, I think they would have done a little bit better.
Okay.
I mean, they were only open for months, maybe, until they were like, this is not cost effective.
Right. So got it. Money grab for sure.
Big time. Big time.
Not being able to leave the park is kind of a tough thing. What are you going to do? Basically watch the same shows over and over again.
I mean, and that's the thing. You're paying $4,000 to $5,000 for a family of 4 to go somewhere for 2 nights for a total of 3 days. You get there on your day 1, but later in the afternoon, then you stay there that night, do a little song and dance. They bring out whatever character. The second day, you're free to leave, what they say, but that free to leave is, oh, we're going to bring you to the Star Wars world and then bring you right back. Stay there for a second night,
And then day 3, they're like, all right, we're at port. See ya. Like, like a cruise ship again. It's a lot of money for if you're traveling far distances and you're finally bringing your family there. I don't find it's great cost for the money wise.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you're paying that money, you're expecting to be able to do whatever you want, and like you're saying, it's kind of you already have a planned itinerary, and it's just an experience that you're gonna pretty much enjoy once.
Yeah,
because it's the same experience over and over again.
Just like in the Family Guy Star Wars. What do we do now? Play that same song. Okay, same song. Here we go.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Absolutely just like that.
Brought out the trumpet for that one.
Perfect. So we're going to kind of wrap up things here. Again, Matt, thank you. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for opening your home to the podcast.
Gentlemen in the scholar.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate everything, the conversations we've had, as always. And everyone can expect nothing but amazing, yes, every time, amazing conversations here on the Gabbin with Goody podcast.